Hey everybody, it's been a little while since I've made a video. I am now 10 months sober, a little over 10 months sober. Today's March 12th. But I kind of felt compelled to make one today because just, to kind of go through a little bit of what I'm dealing with. Things are going really well, still clean and sober. So nothing, no major setbacks like that. But I've talked about things like this before. I've been dealing with a little bit of anxiety the past few days, or maybe going on a week now. And I just kind of want to talk about that process a little bit and what that's been like, and kind of how I've dealt with it and how I'm navigating that space. Because for a long time, I haven't really dealt with anything like that in recovery. Things were going really, really well. I was feeling better each and every day, and I still feel really good. But this is just this a little bit of adversity and anxiety I've been dealing with kind of has just highlighted for me, that recovery really isn't just linear, and that once you start on this path, you're just going to go up and up and up the whole time. We're still living life, like this is real life, and so there are going to be times where you don't feel 100%, or you're dealing with anxiety, things don't go your way, you're dealing with cravings, whatever it is. And that kind of hit me when wasn't really expecting it. Things were just going really well, and then one day I woke up with some anxiety, and I expected it to go away, and it didn't really go away, and it just stayed for a little while. And I think I'm just now on the downward slope of that, where things are kind of leveling out again a little bit. But I dealt with it fine. Um, but yeah, I think what's caused it is I have a lot more on my plate. I'm working full time, coaching soccer, 3 nights a week. Still trying to go to meetings, going to the gym, cold plunges, just things that you get to do as a result of recovery, all really positive things. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to be overwhelmed by them sometimes. That's life. That's how it works. Um, and so, yeah, I've been struggling a little bit the past week with anxiety. Very grateful that the anxiety hasn't dealt or brought cravings on. That's amazing. But I was kind of anxious this week, and it just kind of didn't go away. So, oh yeah, I also smoked a couple cigarettes this week as a result of my anxiety, and I felt really guilty about it. I felt like I was failing because I had a couple of those cigarettes, and so and that compounded the anxiety. Um, so what was really cool was that, kind of without thinking about it, I went into this mode of like working on the solution rather than like sitting in the problem. Like, oh, I have this anxiety and I'm never going to get over it and it's never going to go away, and letting it, kind of run my life. I just kind of stayed the course. I kept doing the things I was supposed to do. I still woke up every morning, did my cold plunge, went to work, continued to go to the gym, got cardio in as well, went for some runs, um, went to soccer practice. I did all the things that I was supposed to do. So that was first and foremost. I think the most important thing was that I continued to show up, regardless of how I was feeling. I didn't let that dictate what I was supposed to be doing. And, I did the things I was still supposed to do. So, at the end of each and every day, I was able to be like, okay, though I didn't feel 100%, I still got these things accomplished, and I still stayed true to my responsibilities and my obligations, things like that. And that's huge. And that goes a long way, even though, in the midst of it, it didn't really feel like, all those things kind of, it didn't feel like I was accomplishing much because the anxiety was there. But as I look back, it's like, no, you still did the right thing. You still showed up. You still did what you were supposed to do. And that's huge. And then the other thing that I really did that was kind of like a default mode, which is like as a result of my recovery, um, I didn't suffer through it alone. And I was honest about how I was feeling to myself. I was like, wow, I recognize the emotion. Like, hey, you're going through a little bit of anxiety. You don't feel 100% this week, but like, that's okay. And, I reached out to my family, and I talked to my mom, and I talked to my sister, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing so well. I was honest that I'd smoked some cigarettes, um, you know, and without being worried about what their judgment would be. The most important thing I could do in recovery, and the only way to get through things, is to be honest about what you're going through, because that allows you to deal with those things. So, I was just straight up and honest and said, hey, I messed up. I had some cigarettes, but I've been dealing with anxiety and blah, blah, blah. But, kind of what I just highlighted to you guys. But, you know, being open and honest about what I was experiencing was a huge relief, because then the weight of that guilt of like, oh, I'm not lying, and I'm not trying to downplay how I'm feeling to anybody, and I'm just being honest about what I'm experiencing. And that kind of takes the power away from it. It's like, hey, yeah, I am going through this, and that's okay. I didn't pick up a drug, and I didn't use, and so that's huge. um, and that's kind of what recovery is about. I've talked about it before, is you just don't use no matter what. And luckily for me, in this little bit of anxiety, I didn't deal with cravings, like I said. But you know that same principle still applied. That doesn't mean I'm not going to have cravings when I get anxiety in the future. So this was like, a good little, it was a good test for me to be like, how am I doing in my recovery? And I think I handled it really, really well. Of course, I could have done things better, and maybe I could have been a little more aware at the onset of the anxiety about what was causing it, and to try to prevent it a little bit better. But I just think that's part of life. You're going to deal with things. Um, I talked to my cousin's fiance, because she's in recovery as well. Um, Shout out to her. She made me feel really good. I called her particularly about the cigarette issue and the guilt that I was feeling with that. And she was amazing. She basically said, dude, you're human. You're going to make mistakes. Like, you don't have to be perfect in recovery. Like, it's about progress, not perfection. That's one of the things I really preach. And, comparatively speaking to 10 months ago, I made huge progress. Like, the fact that the biggest hiccup in my week this week was that I had some anxiety compared to 10 months ago, that's, you know, a miracle. It's, indescribable progress, really, because I was having such bigger problems 10 months ago. And the fact that that's my biggest worry this week is amazing, and I'm really grateful for that. As I kind of get over it, it's like, wow, what a blessing that this is, that um, that's my biggest issue in life right now, is a little bit of anxiety for a few days. um, and but basically she just said that you're going to make mistakes, you're a human, and that's okay. Don't judge yourself for it. Don't be too hard on yourself. The next, all you can do now is kind of do the next right thing and look at where you're at. Like, do you want another cigarette, or do you kind of want to get back on track with smoking, or with not smoking? But don't judge yourself. Just kind of evaluate what you want and do the next right thing. And that was really helpful, because it's like, it's not about the mistake that I made, or that that I have been dealing with anxiety. That doesn't mean that my recovery isn't going well. It just means I need to evaluate what's going on and say, hey, what's the next thing that I can do to help me get through this situation and to help get back on track. um, and so I'm getting through it, and it's great. And the other thing I did that was solution oriented was, and I haven't fully relapsed smoking, I'm not smoking a pack a day again or anything like that, but I did have some cigarettes this week. But just to be safe, I ordered the audio book that I've heard has worked for other people in the past, The Easy Way to Stop Smoking, just as reassurance. And I think that shows a lot about how I'm living life today and how my recovery is going. Rather than getting all down about it and staying in that guilt and that shame, I was solution oriented. It's like, what can I do? Even though it wasn't like this huge cigarette relapse, it's like, what are the things I can do to get out of this slump? And um, rather than just like not doing anything about the mistake, I'm listening to that book, and I think that will help. But just, I think any action that you take in these moments is actually the most important. Like, I'm sure there are some people out there that might think like, how is reading a book going to get you to stop smoking? And I don't know, we'll see how this book goes. But, I think it's more about the principle of like, I was willing to take action to address the problem. And I did the same thing with my anxiety. I was open about it. I shared about it in meetings. Um, Yesterday in particular, the meeting I went to was really great, and I got a lot of support from people afterwards. And like I said, I'm kind of coming out of it, and I think it's just as a result of recognizing that the emotion was going on, and addressing it and being honest about it, talking to people about it, and it kind of takes away that power. And a few days later, here I am feeling a little bit better. So um, it was just a real lesson for me this week, that there's going to be ups and downs in life and in recovery, and how I feel day to day. And that's totally fine. It's nothing to get down about. It doesn't mean that my recovery isn't going well. Like, it's just, that's part of the human experience, is, things aren't going to be perfect all the time. You're not going to feel 100% all the time. And so this was just like a little wake up call to me, because I haven't had those emotions for quite a while. My cat says hi. So, um, and the last valuable lesson, hopefully people listen long enough to hear this, is that I realized that no matter what I'm going through, and this was my biggest takeaway from this experience, was that no matter what I'm going through, um, I have people to support me. I have, if I ever really, really need it, I have a best friend, Casey, my sister, Kennedy, my mom, my uncle Joe, my aunt Amy, all these people, the people in my recovery groups that I've formed genuine friendships with, and the people in the groups in general that maybe I haven't gotten as close with. But the point is that I have people to support me. So as long as I continue to show up and do my part, things are going to be fine. Everything's going to work out okay because if in moments I need support and things really aren't going well, I have people that I can rely on to be there for me, to support me, to give me reassurance, to kind of help guide my mindset. And that people really pulled through. Not that it was a major issue, but I needed some people a little bit this week, and it was great to know that they were there. And so, the biggest takeaway is that, like, you don't have to go through any of these life experiences that are difficult alone. Find people that support you and will be there for you, and really rely on them, even for little things. Sometimes, like, I have the tendency to be like, oh, I'm going through a little bit of anxiety, or this happened or that happened, but that's not a big enough deal. I don't need to talk about it. Talk about it. Like, don't be ashamed of it. You might think it's silly and it's not a big enough thing to bring up to people, but, um, you know, have people that want what's best for you and that aren't going to tell you that, aren't going to try to minimize your experience. Um, and that you can just talk to you about things, even if it kind of seems silly. It's like, I know this isn't a huge deal, but it is bothering me, or I am feeling a little bit this way this week. That's okay to bring up with people and to talk to people about, because, if you keep it inside you and you don't share it and you don't deal with it, that feeling's going to grow. Um, and the moment that I started opening up about what I was going through this week, things really started to turn around because I was able to process it and get it out there and talk to other people about it. And so I'd say that's the biggest takeaway: is don't go through these difficult moments or these difficult emotions alone. Um, Use your support system, and find those people that care about you and that you can talk openly about these things with, because it goes a long way. Anyway, I'm doing much better. This video even helps process these things. Um, so yeah, be honest about your emotions, about your experience, what you're going through. Be willing to be vulnerable, and um, just stay the course no matter what. Don't pick up and don't use, and you will get through these things. The difficult emotions, though they feel like they're going to last for a long time, when you're in them, they will pass, and you can stick it out, and you're better on the other side. So, thanks for listening. Hope this makes some sense to somebody or help somebody out there that may be going through something. Much love, y'all. Peace.